All right, it is January 26th, about 3:30 in the morning GMT time. Run through the pairs for the week. It looks like uh, all the news from last week may have actually pushed us to resume some of our longer term trends. The New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar appear to be moving down again. We've finally broken out of our consolidation on majority of the yen pairs. So specifically, let's take a look at pound New Zealand dollar. I fibbed last week's high to low. You can see that we have hit and started to move down from this daily trend line. So our first option, and probably the less preferred one, would be to get a solid break, pull back, and then a shorter term time frame confirmation along there. The preferred method would be a pullback to the weekly pivot and daily EMA area. Let's take a look at pound CAD. We were hovering around the EMAs for a while there in a range. We finally broke it up and moved quite a bit last week. So I'd like to see a pullback at least to the weekly pivot. But I prefer a pullback down to MR1, that super convergence zone. The 4-hour 55 will be moved up probably a little bit higher than there by the time price pulls back down there. But hopefully we'll see some bigger pullbacks this week, as they're always a little bit easier to trade than just a quick breakout. Pound odd, we finally broke all the EMAs to the upside. Look for, we get shallow pullbacks. We can see the monthly pivot, but I'd rather see a pullback to this level, which would be our weekly pivot and 38.2 fib. All right, pound JPY, we're at currently the lows, but we're still below the daily 200. So we can get a pullback to the daily 200, another retest, and look to see if we get a short from there. The 4-hour 55 will have kind of joined that pair, that EMA at that point. We've got decent downward momentum. Pound USD, another short. We didn't move all that much last week compared to some of the other pairs. Look for a pullback to the weekly pivot. Again, the preferred is going to be the 4-hour 55, which will probably have moved down close to the 50% fib. Euro New Zealand dollar, we closed up last week, but the prevailing trend currently, until we get better confirmation that it's changed, is still to short. So I fibbed the daily last month's high to this month's low. And the first place that I'll look for a reaction is going to be right around WR1, which would be the daily 200 up to this daily 55 and 50% fib. Look for a reaction in there as short. Euro CAD, we finished up a little bit for the week. So normally I would fib the daily on this one, but the 4-hour fib looks pretty good if we fib the high from last week to the low from the week before that. So it gives us a 50% just below our daily 55, 4-hour 200. Also the 4-hour bullish Dynafib is right there, and we have a pretty strong super convergence zone. So I'd like to see a pullback into that area, followed by confirmation short. Euro odd, we closed up last week, but again, have a short fib on here from last month's high to this month's low. We're pretty close to the 4-hour 55, and we could get a reaction off there, but I'd rather see a deeper pullback, at least into the 4-hour bands. Euro yen, we finally broke 134 last week. Look for a pullback to the weekly pivot. If we do get larger pullbacks, we can see price meet the 4-hour 55 towards the middle of the week for a short there. All right, Odd New Zealand dollar. I fibbed short on the daily from last month's high to this month's low. We did break above the daily 55 for part of the week last week, but we're back below it. We've actually already touched up in this area so far this week, and we're moving down. So I would like to see either another retest of that area for a short or a break below this super convergence monthly pivot with a standard break, pullback, and then a short confirmation. Odd CAD, I fit the daily as well. So be from last month's low to this month's high. Look for longs. We're currently at a pretty key area, 9,800. If we get a break back above this 4-hour 55, I'll look for a long from there. If not, I'll look for price to drop down to the daily 200 or 4-hour 200 daily 55 combination. Odd JPY had a big breakdown last week, fibbed the weekly, or fibbed last week rather. And you can look for a pullback to the weekly pivot at 94 or the 4-hour 55. On USD, of course, another big move down. Again, we have the weekly pivot just below .80. Be looking for a short from that level, potentially a spike up to 80.50. New Zealand dollar CAD, I fibbed the daily for a long. You can see that we've already touched off MR1 and the super convergence zone inside the 4-hour Dynafibs, so we can look for a continuation move to the long side above the 4-hour 55, or if we fail to get back above the weekly pivot, we could see another fall perhaps to the lower of the Dynafibs or even down to WS1 4-hour 200. New Zealand dollar yen, we broke the daily 200, so I fibbed to the short side for last week. Look for a pullback to the weekly pivot, or preferably the daily 200, which is at 89 for a short. New Zealand dollar USD, pretty much the same thing as the yen. Look for a pullback in this area for a short. USD CAD made a big move up. I'll look for a pullback and see what happens at the weekly pivot, or potentially pull back all the way down between 122 and the 4-hour 55 for reaction in there to long. Alright, so USD JPY, we closed down a little bit last week, and we are below the daily 55, but I'm still not, excuse me, still not real keen to short on this pair. I would like to long anywhere around this 61.8 fib down to 115.60. That's been a strong support area since we've broken it. If we don't pull back, if we continue to the upside, I want to see a break of basically all of the EMAs and probably the 4-hour Dynafibs, which would be WR1. So a break of that area, and then a pullback and a move back up. I have to be careful because we have 1875, which has been a fairly good resistance area, and then we have 1900 just above that. So we may have to wait for larger moves on this one. Might be better to trade from the 1 1 hour until we get above 119. Euro USD, of course, had a big move down. Look for a pullback to 113 or potentially up to WR1 and the 4-hour 55. Though I'm not sure that we'll see that large of a pullback this week. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with price action. All right, have a good week, everybody. I will try to catch you in the forums.